What's up, college football fans and Mean Green fans? Sonoy Valenta here once again with the Mean Green Show today, joined by Brett Vito, and we're going to jump into a little bit of, just kind of where things are at with the program and Coach Luttrell and maybe a little bit of UNLV talk and all that. But anyways, Brett, how are you doing? Thanks for jumping on, and how's football season been for you thus far?
Yeah, it's been good. We brought back our preseason football edition this year, which was a bit of an adventure. Um, but we did manage to get all that finished up, and then it's been an interesting start for to the season. Been kind of up and down, but I think North Texas is at a pretty encouraging point to be 2-1 at this point. So
Yeah, I mean, there is, some positives, obviously 2-1. That's the best start since 2018 is what you said, right?
yeah,
Okay, so yeah, so obviously there's like some light at in the tunnel, or not. I wouldn't say at the end of the tunnel, but just currently. But anyway, kind of before we get into too much football, this next game, it's at UNLV. You're going to Las Vegas. Haven't missed a game since '03. Are you going to get any time for recreation while you're up there? And if so, what are you going to do with that time in Sin City?
That's a good question. Because I will, I am going to come in on Friday. Friday afternoon. And then, you get in there, and the thing is, it's an afternoon game. So you don't want to stay out late or super late or anything like that. But if I get in time, I'll probably, drive around town and kind of fiddle around, see what's going on, or try to find something interesting to do. People always ask you that. And the problem with being a writer, covering college football teams is typically, you've got to travel as cheap as you possibly can. And you've got a lot of stuff to do before you leave. So, I always end up trying those cheap flights, always end up being the late ones on Friday. So I always end up flying out Friday afternoon, and then you got to get back to get your stuff done. So I end up usually flying back, real early on Sunday morning. So I'm on those early flights. Occasionally you do get there early enough to do something. Probably I'll be in Las Vegas by 3. I'm going to have a breakfast with Ben Baby out there on Saturday. That'll be fun. Because Ben used to work for us, and then he was a really talented guy and was young in his career and could afford to bounce around. It wasn't tied down by anything, and just a real great guy. And then he ended up bouncing all the way to ESPN, where he's doing the Bengals, of course, and he also is one of their main boxing / combat sports writers. And it just so happens to be there's a big fight in Las Vegas that same weekend, so we're going to hook up on Saturday morning before he goes to the fight, and I go to the UNLV game. So that'll be one of the fun things. The one other time I did try to go out early somewhere, this is kind of the way things go when you're covering a college football team, is when that North Texas went to Cal. And a whole bunch of other North Texas fans and parents had the same idea. So we were all sitting in a gate at DFW trying to catch like the 10 a.m. flight out to California. And they're having problems they're redoing the runways at the airport out there. And so all of us ended up sitting there for like 3 hours, and then didn't get in until late. And, it wasn't enough time to really do much of anything before you had to hit the sack for the next day. But, so it's kind of one of those things. People think you get all this extra time on the road, and typically you really don't.
Well, hopefully you can get into a casino and, triple your efforts on something, we'll see. But anyway, so before we talk a little bit about UNLV, just, we see it on Twitter, you're not really defending it. You're just stating facts, with some of the fans, whether it's good or bad. And obviously there's a lot of fans that are currently, they're put out with Coach Luttrell, and, for some of them, I do get the reason, and others, like you and I have talked about, Coach Luttrell has done some really good things at North Texas and is still in the middle of doing those things. We just found out pre-tape that his overall record is 39-9, which, for the compensation that Coach Luttrell's, getting or has gotten, Conference USA, you'd probably want that to be a bit higher. However, that's pretty good in the history of North Texas coaches. So, I don't know, Brett. What's your, not that you have a stake in the fire per se, but do you think that some of the moaning and complaining and crying, that some of the fans do is well warranted? Or do you feel that, Luttrell is maybe just I don't know, just where he should be appreciated more by the fans. You have a thoughts one way or the other on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got to respect what he's done at North Texas. I mean, the program's only been to 13 bowl games in its history, and he's taken North Texas to bowl games in all but one of his seasons. I think he's what 5 out of 6. So he's taken North Texas to a heck of a lot of success. They did make the championship game one year. He recruited and had one of the best players in program history in Mason Fine. So I definitely see where he's accomplished a heck of a lot. And then you see the other side of the argument of, okay, we put $78 million into a stadium. We built a $16 million indoor facility. We're in DFW. We should be better than what we are. And I understand that argument, but I think you do have to respect what he's done. And he's been pretty consistently competitive at North Texas. And my complaint with people always hemming and hawing about what they've done or what he's done is you know who you are as a program, right? I hesitate to think of just saying that Luttrell is a terrible coach and he hasn't gotten anything done at North Texas when he clearly has. And he's performing at a level that's well above what North Texas typically has done historically. I always harken back to, everybody at UTA. One other example is UTA always, you look at them and they had Scott Cross there in basketball for all those years. And they were consistently good and they were making the NCAA tournament every few years. And then they built the College Park Center and the AD decided that Scott Cross wasn't good enough. Well, they got rid of Scott Cross and he ended up going to Troy, I think. And then, UTA's never been the same since. Now, I'm not saying that would happen to North Texas, but I think, you got to put in perspective a little bit where the program's been historically and what it has to work with. And I think you got to just respect what Luttrell has done. I think there's no way around it.
Yeah. And, we're not, we'll speculate, I guess, but that's all we can do is speculate. And obviously, but how much do you think is at stake this season? Do you think another 6-win bowl appearance will bring Luttrell back for the first year going into the AAC, or do you think it's going to need more than that? If you had to, if we played, couch chair AD for a second.
I'm pretty comfortable in the fact that if you win 6 or 7 games, I think there's kind of maybe they have to look at it. Do they feel like they're headed in the right direction? Do they think the recruiting's going the right direction? I think if he wins 8, 9 games, he's definitely going to get an extension. I think if he fall into that 6, 7 win type scenario, then maybe it comes down to the direction of the program, how recruiting's going, how you do in a bowl, things like that. And I think if they go under 500 again, I think then, Ren's got, it may be hard to bring him back. Mm-hmm. So, I think that's a little bit of where it falls. I think it's an incredibly critical year for North Texas and for Seth Luttrell. And I think if he gets that, 7, 8, 9 win mark and they do well in a bowl and they win a bowl, I think that's a foregone conclusion he's back. I think if they fall into like another 500 season, I think, you've got a decision to make. If you fall below that and they have another losing season and don't play well, and then then I think maybe they would think about moving on. But that's just kind of my read of where things stand.
So you do the rear on the record, each and every year. And did you put your own rear on your own record? And
I always put a guess down. I think I picked him to go 7-6 and finally win a bowl game, which I don't know. That's kind of a dicey thing to do. I think that's kind of, I think they were between us, like a 5 and an 8 win type team. And I think it all comes down to at the end of the year, what kind of bowl matchup do you get? And I think that was what was so freaking painful about last year for North Texas is they've always had such terrible luck in bowl games, largely because bowl games are all about who you end up playing, right? Like there was no way they were going to beat Utah State with Jordan Love. I know Mason got hurt early in that game, but they're not going to beat Utah State with Jordan Love and an NFL quarterback and the rest of the guys on his team. They played Troy, which had its best team ever. And that quarterback, well, maybe not best team ever, but one of their best teams, that quarterback ended up, hanging around on the fringes of the NFL for a long time. Last year, you finally got what looked like a favorable bowl matchup. You're at home against a MAC school. Um, they were set up to win that game, and they just didn't play well. I think that's the one that really hurts, and you just wonder, are they going to get lucky enough to get another winnable bowl matchup again, or are they going to get sent, to some bowl game? If they get to a bowl game, are they going to get sent to some game where they're going to be playing like a Power 5 team that finishes at the bottom of the Big 12 or the SEC or something, and get absolutely, get run over?
Yeah, I think the last bowl loss was the toughest for sure. I think, when we played, I think it was App State at Myrtle Beach in the Myrtle Beach Bowl. That was, I don't know why they matched us either one team up with the other one on that one, but yeah. So but the last one that was a tough one. That was definitely winnable, and we think all of us fans, we feel like we should have won, right? Or they should have played better to win. Not that the game was taken away from them by any means, but. So, taking a look down at UNLV. I mean, a win at UNLV would put Seth Luttrell in the overall winning column for 40 and 39. This would be a big win for him, and put this season at 3-1, which that's a good start for North Texas. I realize the 2 wins have come against FCS and a UTEP who's not off to the best start. But regardless, 2-1, and then maybe 3-1. That's still a great start for UNT. How do you feel about this matchup that UNLV is coming off of I think it was like a 6-point loss to Cal? I think it was 14-20 or 14-21. It was kind of a lower scoring game, and they kept it close with a Pac-12 Power 5 school. I mean, any thoughts on this week's matchup?
Yeah, I mean, that's the scary thing if you look at it for North Texas, is you're thinking, okay, well, maybe you get UNLV at a time they're down, and they ended up going to Cal, and Dardanere pulled that game out. So they've got Doug Brumfield. They got a sophomore quarterback who's 6'6" and 225 pounds, a real big guy that's already thrown for 562 yards and 5 touchdowns with just 1 interception on the year. So he's a good player. They've got some talent all the way around. And so I think that's what makes it interesting is, I think this is a game that's could probably go either way. They're a throw the ball team. They've got 252 rushing yards on the season. But they've got a good quarterback. They've got Ricky White, their sophomore wide receiver from Georgia. He's got 4 touchdown receptions already on the year. And they're matching up against a North Texas team that really misses John Davis at cornerback. That was not good when he went down in the game against UTEP to start the season. So that's a little bit of a matchup problem there for North Texas. It'll be interesting to see how Phil Bennett goes about trying to contain those guys. But that's the thing about this game. I saw the line started out with North Texas as a 1-point favorite, and it swung to UNLV being about a 2.5 point favorite, which makes a little bit of sense. I think North Texas is going to have to play really well on the road to win this game. They're going to need to play well defensively. They're going to need to run the ball effectively and then let Austin hit his shots down the field, which has kind of been their MO so far this season.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But, well, Brett, thank you so much for jumping on, and we'll see how this Saturday goes, and take care and have fun, and don't get lost in Vegas.
Oh, I'll try not to. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, thank you.